it's only a tough spot because of how their rule book is currently constructed. They knew the threat of rain was coming, and I think that's why they held the caution, but they are attempting to engineer something else as to why they didn't do it. And their excuses are that they were negligent, which is a terrible excuse. You have access to every car's data. You have access to all the camera angles that are available to you. They knew Cody Ware was in that tire wall for practically the entire time he was there. And they were hoping somehow that after he blew a brake rotor and shot it out into the track and plowed into the tire barriers at nearly 100 miles an hour, that he might get back going. It's just so funny. You just got to laugh. I think that it's just really rich that they just seem to believe that a car that blew its brake rotor and flew into like Cicero basically through the tire barrier, that it was going to back out and, continue on. That's horse. It's just absolute BS. Like, I cannot believe that, one, NASCAR had the audacity to say such a thing after a 35-second hold. Like, that is a significant amount of time. Like, you could probably spin around 10 times and then shoot a basketball 3 or 4 different times after that while you're still dizzy, and you would still have enough time to see that Cody Ware was in the wall and a caution needed to be thrown. I just feel like we have so much technology at our disposal. As I mentioned, they have all the telemetry data that they needed available to them. They have all the in-car camera, information available to them. They have all of the camera angles from the broadcaster and their own international feed. This is just an excuse made by NASCAR. And again, I'm going to cut them a fraction of slack, because I think had this race gone to overtime, we'd be having a much different conversation, and probably a much worse conversation about how this race played out. Because rain was coming, thunderstorms were coming, and I knew this because I have friends in the city that told me that they were about a half hour north that they had gotten thunderstorms already. So I knew that we'd probably have to be ready for weather at some point, and thankfully we didn't have to worry about it. But if NASCAR's overtime rules weren't so stupid and rigid, then we wouldn't have this discussion. We could have just thrown the caution out at lap 74, and the race could have just ended at lap 75 under caution, like it ended up doing. But no, because we have overtime, and it's automatic, no matter what the circumstance. No matter what the circumstance is, we always have to go to overtime. That's kind of the problem here. Like, if you don't paint yourself into an ideological corner with your rule book, you don't have these kind of controversies pop up. So, yeah, I think it's a bunch of lame excuses by the people that run the sport, and it showed a very big lack of safety and, caution, ironically enough, for the driver that plowed into a tire barrier that was, blocking a concrete barrier behind it at almost 100 miles an hour and said, I need help immediately. Like, it's almost as bad as when Carson Hocevar got his leg broken at Gateway in the Truck Series in 2022, and it took them a minute and a half to get him any sort of medical attention at a facility that's only 1.25 miles long. Like, NASCAR, unfortunately, has a history of doing things like this, and it's really, really infuriating. And they have no one but themselves to look at, because if you didn't have such rigid rules about going to overtime and leaning too far into the entertainment aspect of your sport, then you don't have problems like this. You could have just thrown the caution and the race could have just been over. But no, we have to lean into what the fans want so much that we are willing to endanger our competitors. And they did that twice today. The Josh Berry incident, too, was particularly infuriating, because he sat there for a lap and a half, almost 2 laps, and the leaders, I was really worried at one point that they were just going to plow right into him. And thankfully that didn't happen. But the lack of a trigger finger for the yellow flag today, when they normally will see a car get loose on the backstretch and they'll throw a caution for it, It's just really inconsistent and a terrible look for the sport. And frankly, they should, kind of reconvene and have a hard look in the mirror, but they're not going to do that because this is just how they operate.
And I'm glad you brought up the Josh Berry one because I was thinking, why did they wait so long? And then we hear, well, NASCAR allowed everyone to go by the pit straight. But it just sort of reminded me of when IndyCar was doing this a couple years ago. Oh, someone spun. We're not going to throw the caution because we know there's some cars in that so-called danger zone, and this is going to ruin the race. We'll give everyone an opportunity to pit. No, that's race manipulation. I mean, and we're talking about concrete walls. Those walls. Yeah, they did sort of move because they're more Jersey barriers type walls where they're temporary, but still, those were hard hits for those cars. I just feel like, come on, throw the caution. I get it. You know, some people races will be ruined by Josh Berry's caution, but at the end of the day, you can't just let him sit out there and just give everyone the opportunity. I mean, the IndyCar driver said we don't want IndyCar quit doing that. And then with the overtime, I think this is something NASCAR really needs to consider. It's like, should we just make a change where it's like, okay, the overtime rule, certain circumstances, is not going to come in and we're going to announce it or somehow make it clear because if we got to not overtime, then you get the rain coming in, and then you're just going to get a sloppy finish, and then we're going to be talking about how sloppy this finish was, regardless of who won. I mean, if it was heavy thunder and lightning, or even, of course, one thunder, 30-minute clock starts, and then if there's another, it starts over, then it just ends under red flag. It could have been really sloppy, and I think NASCAR needs to consider something about, okay, under what circumstances could we say, hey, there will be no overtime if this happens? Because at the end of the day, it just sets up so for a bigger mess rather than giving their fans what they really want, a green flag finish in a respectable race that doesn't look ridiculous.